All right, welcome to episode 23 of the Long Toss here on the Walkoff. I am joined by 3 of our 5 panelists for today. The other 2 are just running late, but they'll be here shortly. We'll get to that in introductions in just a moment. But for now, episode 23, the player who wore it best. We're going to Zach Greinke for this one. The Zach Greinke episode wore 21 as well, but he is currently wearing 23 with the Royals. So there you go. Let us know in the chat or in the comments who your nomination for favorite number 23 might be. Okay, we've got a lot to talk about today. We've got Jays Mariners series. Jays seem to be in free fall mode. Canada showed up in Seattle. If only the team joined them. Oh, I love when Scott writes the show notes. He just puts just enough cleverness in here to make me smile. There was a players-only meeting on Friday. We'll talk about that. The Mariners are a legit wild card contender. How worried are you that the Jays might not make the playoffs? Where'd the offense go, and could the lineup use a shakeup once again? Temperature check on this team in general, pitching, coaching, etc. And how do you want to see a trade or roster bolstered, and when should it happen? Would you guys be willing to overpay? All-Stars have been announced. Kirk officially makes the All-Star game as the starting catcher. Should Alec Manoa be All-Star game bound? I think the pitchers are announced right around now, so that might be out by the time I'm reading this.
He's in.
Okay. I just got a text from my brother, said Romano is out, so I assume that was coinciding with that. The Baltimore Orioles are good. How could this be? The AL East is going to have 5 teams over 500 potentially by the All-Star break. I think they're 1 game under 500 after their win today. So we're going to talk about all that stuff. But, of course, we got a little bit more housekeeping and then introductions here. Scott is away today. Today's show is brought to you by Team Oh My. Out hustle my yesterday. Big thank you to Team Oh My for sponsoring the Long Toss, every episode of the Long Toss. 14% discount at checkout if you go to teamomai.com and enter the discount code WALKOFF at omai_apparel on Instagram for all the fun stuff over there. So thanks to that. Patreon, we got to mention as well, patreon.com/the Walkoff Podcast. David, Abraham, Michael, Sarah. I have to point out, it is not Michael, Sarah. Those are 2 different people. We did get a hilarious comment that made me laugh. But no, Michael and Sarah. John, Simon, Rashid, Joshua, Jeremy, Ian, Dunedin, Bob, and now John has joined the Patreon. So big thanks there. We do have movie reviews, Bull Durham, Mr. Baseball, Major League, Field of Dreams, and more. We have behind-the-scenes stuff. We have early access interviews. We have contests for Jose Barrios jerseys that do not fit me, unfortunately. That is a men's extra large, and I am a little bit too extra. But there you go. Patreon.com/the Walkoff Podcast, $4 a month. We appreciate all the support. If that's too steep for you, we appreciate the likes, the comments, and the shares as well. Okay, let's kick it to the panel now. Jen, the official new Iron Man of the show, as Joel missed it last week. So nice to see you, Jen, as always. I can say that now, as always.
Good to be reliable.
I see you've got the game streaming in the background there, so
I've had to, I'm getting an appliance delivered tomorrow. And so I had to move my furniture that was in one room out. And so this is my computer setup right now. So yes, we've got the TV on in the background, and I'm really not sure it's worth watching at the moment.
Well, if MLB takes this stream down, I'm blaming it on you technically rebroadcasting the game.
Oh,
so
I can turn it off.
No, don't. I'm sure it's fine.
Okay.
I'm sure it's fine. Yeah. All right, Lewis, how you doing? Nice to see you. It's been a while.
Couple weeks. Doing good, man. Yeah, I know. I seem to be the Max Castillo of this podcast. Just a spot start here and there.
Hey, but
no,
we appreciate
it. It's good to be back on. Yeah, it's good to be back on.
You're all done school and stuff now. Are you playing summer ball?
Yeah, summer ball on Tuesday. I'll be heading down to the States to play in Cincinnati and then Atlanta. So a lot of baseball, bit of
Big
school.
time.
Gotta do some online English, but nothing crazy.
Very cool. Well, good luck with your travel plans. I know airports seem to be a nightmare right now. That's why Scott is away. Scott was supposed to be home by about 12 o'clock this afternoon, and his flight got canceled. And I think he's still at the airport as we speak. So that's always fun. Garth, nice to see you. How you doing?
Glad to be back.
Glad to have you back. We've also got Joel, our former Iron Man of the show, is going to be joining us potentially any minute. And Mitch Bannon, friend of the show, but you probably know him from Sports Illustrated and his coverage of the Jays there, supposed to be sitting down to join us as well. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on the Zoom lobby, and we'll see who kicks in as we go. But let's start with this Mariners series, shall we? As of the time of recording this, I believe it is in the 7th inning, and the Jays have lost the first 3 games of the series, and is now tied 4-4 at the end of 6. So this was supposed to be the softest part of our schedule. I'm kind of speechless at how chaotic this team has been as of late. I don't even really know where to begin with this. Is it just injuries? Is the starting rotation just depleted? Is that the simple excuse? Budzinski, obviously the family crisis there, an emotional impact on this team. I don't know if we can still cut the team the benefit of the doubt more than a week later at this point. Garth, how are you feeling about this team, this series against the Mariners?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. It's just apple juice. I just kind of want, but we're really sliding right now. We have to we don't have that padding. Like we've talked about it here on the podcast that the Jays need a cushion. You know, they need that little bit of cushion when stuff like this happens, but we've lost that cushion now. If the Mariners win today, we're tied with the Mariners for the last wild card spot.
Yeah.
We have Baltimore like a couple games behind us. If two games behind us if we lose today. So it's been a rough stretch, and I feel for the team. They're going through a lot with Bud's daughter dying. But I don't think it's injuries. Every team has injuries. The Rays have been decimated by injuries this season, and they're still ahead of us in the standings. I think it's a lack of depth, not just on the major league team. I think it's an organizational depth that we don't have. Like we don't have a stud in AAA for a stud starting pitcher in AAA. We don't even have one in AA. Like the closest thing we have to a stud starting pitcher is Ricky Tiedemann, who's 19. So, and bullpen, like it's falling apart, and I don't blame the guys. A lot of it's just they've been put in situations that they weren't supposed to be put in, and they've been overworked. Ever since Gausman took that ball off his ankle, it's just we haven't been able to get back to a semblance of a normal bullpen rotation. It's just been throw everything at the wall and hopefully it sticks.
So, Lewis, let's start with you then. Obviously, pitching is in dire straits right now with this team. Would you say the issue lies more with the starting rotation and a lack of depth there? Or is this something that can be improved strictly by addressing the needs in the bullpen?
I think bullpen is the priority. Pitching at its best is still really good. We saw at the start of the year with Gausman, Barrios. We've seen Barrios come back to normal. If Gausman's healthy, it's great. Manoa is obviously kind of our number one right now. And if you can get Kikuchi just to be a 4 ERA guy, that's still good.
That's a
We're
big
not sure
ask.
it is a big ask, but like the tools are there. There's a world where that is possible. It's not out of reach for him. And then Stripling and again Castillo today, I guess it is a problem, but with the little depth that we do have that we're trying to maybe, trade away for some pieces here, I'm not sure if starting pitching maybe the avenue you go, because the bullpen just lacks strikeouts, it lacks run prevention. When it comes down to that seventh, eighth, ninth, you want to make sure you're locking down that lead you may have.
I would agree with you. Would sure be nice to lock down a lead late in the game. My big concern, and then we'll throw to Jen here, is that I can't run the math on a good enough bullpen that we could add that won't just be in the same exact spot we're in right now if we don't add some pitching depth, because this bullpen was a great like all these guys were pitching great in April and May when they were fresh. This is a bullpen that is overworked and run down. I really don't take too much comfort in there's a world where Kikuchi finds it again as a solution for this team. He's kind of like in that Nate Pearson realm for me of like, well, if anything happens, it is what it is, but we can't rely on it. If we don't add a starting pitcher, and I do think we for sure need to bolster this bullpen, but if we don't add a starting pitcher, I just can't see any of the help we get for the bullpen not getting tired, not getting worn out, and being in the same spot that we're in right now. Like our rotation is Manoa, Barrios, Gausman, and then 2 bullpen days. Like Stripling has done admirably as a starting pitcher, but he would be nice in the bullpen too. And Barrios is no sure thing to pitch past the second inning either. So I just really feel uncomfortable with the idea of having our starting rotation have a weekly bullpen day on top of maybe another one if Barrios or Gausman gets blown up. Jen, how are you feeling about this pitching?
I mean, there's a lot to talk about here on both sides of the ball with this team. I've maintained all along that I think the Blue Jays need to add a starter as soon as possible. They're going to have to in the off season regardless because of the loss of Ryu. So one way or another, they're going to have to add a starter. And obviously, if they don't add one during the season and they wait till the off season, then they could, throw money at the problem and sign a free agent or something. But I don't think that's going to cut it getting through the remainder of this season. And so for all the reasons you just stated, I think they need to add a starter. I think you move, Stripling back to the bullpen. That gives you some depth there. That gives you your long man out of the bullpen. I really don't know what they're going to do with Kikuchi. I agree that he clearly has certain tools or they wouldn't have signed him, but we're halfway through the season and he hasn't been able to put it together. And to be fair, they've thrown an awful lot at him. And perhaps this was an overreach on the part of the front office, thinking that they could tinker and tinker and tinker with him and turn him into something that he hasn't been, right? So I really don't know what you do there, but 3 years and $36 million isn't nothing. So I don't think they can just cut bait on him. So I think you need to add a starter, move Stripling to the bullpen, and have him as the long man for those Kikuchi starts. Or, as you said, if Barrios can't get out of the second inning or whatever the case might be. But there's a lot to talk. Like nothing is going right for this team right now. Literally nothing is going right.
I'm seeing some comments in the live chat here about Max Castillo. Max Castillo is a stud. We're in a world where Castillo is the fifth starter. How's everyone feel about Max Castillo? I didn't catch his outing today, doing prep for the show, but looking at the line, 4 1/3 innings, 1 earned run, 3 strikeouts, and 1 walk. Max Castillo threw 59 pitches and got us halfway through the 5th inning. That isn't good enough to be a starting pitcher on a World Series contender. If we're going to need him as like a spot start, if someone has bad tacos for a couple weeks and he needs to come up and cover for Gausman, who took one off the ankle, I'm fine with that. But I don't think Max Castillo should be in our game plan of like, well, let's just give him 15 more starts over the course of the second half of the season. Am I wrong about this, Garth?
You're not wrong. But since that Yankees outing, Castillo's been good.
Mm-hmm.
He did just pitch 2 days ago. He had 40-some pitches a couple days ago. So I think that's kind of why his pitch count was a bit lower. I can see him getting built up to 70, 80, 90 pitches pretty quickly if they're going to go with him as being a fifth starter instead of Kikuchi. Like he's going to get built up quicker. So he won't be pitching 59 pitches. But he's an unknown. I mean, he's pitching well now, but I mean, there's plenty of pitchers that go out there and have 2 or 3 really good outings and then completely shit the bed. You know, like we see it on our team, you know, with Thornton. Thornton, you know, everyone's like, oh, he's pitching great. The last 2 weeks, Thornton's been amazing. And then he goes out there and just like throws up meatballs and gets killed. So you can't really rely on Max Castillo coming in here to save the Jays season. We started the year, we really only had 5 starting pitchers at the beginning of the year. And we're all just like, you know, oh, please, I really hope that everyone stays healthy. And, you know, in MLB, you need 7, 8 guys for your rotation. Like, legitimately, you're going to have people missing starts. I think we need to sign another starting pitcher. And that, I mean, we do need swing and miss guys in the bullpen, but I think a starter will help. But yeah, I don't think Max Castillo is our, you know, silver bullet.
Yeah, I think it's too small of a sample size to be anointing Max Castillo the fifth starter role at this point. And if you think back to the beginning of the season, I mean, was he even part of the plan? Right? Like, exactly.
I never even heard of him.
Exactly, right? There were several guys higher up than him on that depth chart. Nate Pearson, Anthony Kay, right? All guys who are clearly not going to contribute to this team this season and possibly ever. And now, you know, we're down to a guy that, again, yet, you know, like Lewis just said, no one had ever even heard of. Yes, he's pitched well, and that's fantastic. And I'm sure the Jays will need to use him further. But I think it's far too soon and strays far too away from the goal to now say he's the fifth starter.
Let me just say, if we're looking at our starting rotation, even if let's give Max Castillo the benefit of the doubt and say that he can handle the duties of a fifth starter for us, like we have to be playing for more than just a playoff spot, right? Like, this team has to be having eyes on taking down the Yankees in the playoffs. So if we're looking at a starting rotation where Max Castillo is one of our options, I don't feel good about that. Like, I'm looking at, here's the list we've got for a 7-game series against the Yankees. Let's say Manoa gets game 1, Gausman gets game 2, then an off day. Then Barrios, Manoa on short rest, Gausman off day. Barrios, Manoa on, like, do we want Manoa pitching 3 times against the Yankees because we don't have a fourth guy that we trust giving the ball to?
And
That scares me. Do you guys see another solution here?
well, I think it shows that we're not missing high-end talent, and at the deadline, high-end talent obviously is the most expensive. So when it comes to the deadline, we shouldn't really be having to give up much to fill up that fourth, fifth spot. A guy like Martine Perez, he's overperforming this year. His underlying numbers say he's doing very well, but he's a one-year guy. He's got what? He's over 30 years old. He's a guy you can get for cheap, and he's going to fill in that fourth spot in your rotation. I'm not too worried with the idea that we're not going to fill in this spot in the rotation by the end of the year. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
We've got Joel here joining us.
Well,
So let's
we
just
need,
say hello
like,
to Joel, and then Garth will go back to you. Oh, no, he's not ready anyways. Of course not. That's perfect.
All right.
Garth,
Well,
all right, let's go back to you.
But I'm saying, like, we're talking about our playoff rotation. Like, we need to get to the playoffs. Like, we have a bunch of teams that are right behind us. So we need 5 starters. We don't need 4. We need 5 right now to make it to the playoffs. And then we can have this discussion about who's going to be our 4th starter. Like, we need, like,
I know,
we need 2 starters, really.
Joel, do you want to chime in on the starting pitching here? Welcome back. Nice to see you, by the way.
Hi. Yeah. I don't know. I had internet problems, but I think it was just me not resetting my router, because as soon as I reset my router, it worked. I just assumed it was like Rogers was down again.
Fair enough. You're like, but I'm not with Rogers. That doesn't make sense.
What was it? The topic is we need more starting pitching.
We're talking starting pitching solutions for this team via trade in general, but we were just running down the playoff rotation in a 7-game series with the Yankees. The idea of just having 3 starting pitchers be enough is scary, and as Garth pointed out, that doesn't still get us to the playoffs. So how are you feeling?
Yeah, and the fact that if you're going to run 3 pitchers in a series, are you going to have a bullpen day with a bullpen that can't do a bullpen day?
No, we're just going to run everybody out on short notice.
Short rest.
This
okay.
is why this is why we need like starting pitching. Like for sure we need bullpen help, right? But like
everyone on short rest. Yeah. 3 pitchers on short rest. We're
going to roll Alec Manoa out for game 7 for the 3rd time against the Yankees in that series.
That's the Sandy Koufax approach. We're going back
Alec
to
Manoa, by the way, is going to start against the Kansas City Royals next week in Toronto, and that's going to bring him to at least 112 innings on the season, which is more than he pitched all of last year. So it'll be a new career high, and we're not even at the All-Star break.
I assume there's an inning caps for him, right? Like they probably don't want to use him more than 185.
They've said that there isn't. They've said he had a great off season, but of course there has to be.
Well, yeah, you would assume that from just your first full season in the majors, that they never let a guy go 215, 220 at this age. But I don't know, maybe his size, maybe all of that. I don't know.
If there's anyone I'd let go to 215 innings, it's Alec Manoa.
Yeah, exactly. Physically, he's totally capable of it. It's just the day and age of baseball that we're in.
It's still just so scary in his sophomore season to let him go that far. I don't know.
The thing that Manoa has going for him is like it's his size, but it's also that he has great mechanics, and he's not a 100-mile-an-hour guy that's going to blow out his shoulder. He's 95, and a guy his size, like you can see him gear back, and like I've seen him hit 98, but like that's very rare. So he's not a fireballer guy that's, at risk. So I think with his body size and the way he pitches, I don't know. I think he could. I don't see why he couldn't hit 200 innings.
I'm not like. I hope he can. It's just scary the thought that we're going to need him to.
Oh, 100%.
And it's scary the thought that it's going to be 215 at the end of September, and then we're also going to ask him to pitch hopefully deep into October and add another 40
That had
innings.
to be part of their plan. Would it not have been? Like if you look at who their starting rotation was at the beginning of the season, they had to be banking on Manoa going the distance, right?
I guess with Kikuchi,
Right? Like you
You
weren't
were-
thinking Kikuchi was your dude.
No, but you were ideally in a situation where Stripling was a long man who could get you certain starts throughout the year, right? Like you're
Right.
running 5+ Stripling. So if you're, on an innings limit, you can, in a
Well-
comfortable position, you can buy those innings, but we're not in a comfortable position at all. That's not at all.
No,
the
and that just
situation.
underscores the need to get a starter, I think.
100%. Oh yeah. And I think we've been needing a starter for a month now. I think it's well into that. We watch the Sportsnet. I whenever I'm watching baseball, it's like, don't hit the panic button. Like I hit the panic button in mid-May. I've hit that panic button a lot. There's no panic button anymore to hit. I've hit it so many damn times at this point.
I tweeted it a month ago, approximately, and same thing. Oh, it's too soon to panic, yada yada yada. It's not panic. It's observation. It's
Yes.
watching what is actually happening and commenting on it, and not just having head in the clouds, being like, "Oh, they'll figure it out. It'll work out." Da 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 da. Right? Whatever. It's actually watching what's happening on the field, looking at statistics and seeing that it's unsustainable what is happening. And it was unsustainable a month ago. You could see the writing on the wall, and it's gone downhill from there. I can't, I don't even know. I personally don't think that they can wait until the actual deadline day to make a move. I think there's the potential to lose too much ground. That's just how I'm looking at it. And that's not, obviously they're still in a playoff position. I believe Fangraph still has them at 80-something% to make the playoffs, right? But that can change. That can change.
Doesn't feel like we're 80% locked right now at all.
No.
Like that's an interesting number to give you. Like this,
Gotta
you
look.
look at just the last. No, I believe the number is what it says. But
Yeah.
like 80%. You look
Does
at
feel generous.
Yeah, you look at the teams that are flying right now. We're 3 up on Baltimore. It's not. There's half dozen teams that are
84% chance to make the
seems
playoffs
really
per
high.
Fangraphs.
Yeah, feels like 50-50 almost at this point.
Oh man, so we're talking about pulling the trigger on an overpay for a trade now-ish on the other side of the All-Star break, right? We're hoping that Ross is on the phone that whole All-Star weekend, and we leave that All-Star break, I believe it's in Los Angeles, with a new starting pitcher, with a new lefty bat, with bullpen arms. What are we hoping for here if we're talking about overpaying? Obviously, we need all sorts of pitching, but if we're only going to overpay for one thing, where should we overpay?
Shohei
Get something done
Ohtani.
quickly. Well, that would solve the lefty bat and the pitching problem, wouldn't it?
Show me Shohei.
The Angels are a very interesting trade partner.
Well, here's my question for Joel. You're our resident Shohei Ohtani expert. I know you have a massive crush on Shohei Ohtani.
Do I? Okay, yeah, sure. We all do, don't we?
Yeah.
It's a good crush to have. Like saying you're like Brad Pitt.
Okay, Lewis wins.
Ah,
There we go.
I win. Japan jersey.
that's beautiful.
That's very nice.
Thank you.
All right, so this is for everyone. LA Angels. Are they crazy to think about trading Shohei Ohtani?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Insane.
moving on.
Insane.
Um,
He is the most marketable player in history ever. If they traded him, that'd be insane. But I'd give up anybody for him. I'd give up Boba Shet for Shohei Ohtani.
I absolutely would too. But the crazy thing is, as marketable as he is, what good does it do if you don't put anything around him?
It's
Like
terrible.
it's so crazy to me, right?
It's terrible for baseball, but for business,
It is. Oh, it's awful.
I know.
the haul
Anyways,
that they would get back.
If only they could surround him with a guy like, I don't know, Mike Trout.
Mike Trout or Anthony Rendon.
Trade him too.
Rendon's a bum. Okay, what did the
Injured
Dodgers
bum.
give up last year for Max Scherzer and Trey Turner?
Keibert Ruiz and Josiah Gray.
Yeah, Jose.
how does a haul compare to that? Like, if you're giving
Moreno,
up anything
yeah.
for, I'm not saying the Jays should go get him. Let's just talk Angels for a second. If you're the Angels, you're talking about a starting pitcher, a elite left-handed bat, and the same
Most
guy
valuable player in baseball.
who's under control for, I believe,
last
3 or 4 more years.
100 years.
Now, the second part of this question is, how can they afford to pay him $300 million when his contract's up? Because they'll still owe Mike Trout has a $300 million contract. Rendon has a $300 million contract. They're going to give $1 billion to 3 players and keep missing the playoffs. Or
He leaves in free agency for sure.
well, okay, so this is the thing. If he's leaving in free agency, why not trade him now? Or sometime between now and free agency. Like, I don't know.
Well, they're not trading him this year because they started out really well this season. And they're going to tinker and we'll push it back. We'll make the playoffs in 2023. We promise. But I mean, they're not trading Shohei Ohtani this season. Like, that's what would you have to give up? Like, we'd have to give up like Bo, Teoscar, or Elvis.
Lourdes.
Yep, sounds good to me. Let's do it. I'll buy them the bus ticket myself.
Yeah, but then we're stuck with, like, who are we stuck with? Like, we'll be in the same boat as the Angels.
No,
like the Angels
are a bad organization.
Players. Yeah, but they have 2 of the best players in baseball, and they still stink. So if we traded for Ohtani and emptied out our whole team, we'd have 2 great players, and then we'd stink.
We already have 2 great players, and we stink.
Realistically, it probably will never ever happen.
The second great player.
Yeah. A guy I am interested in is what's his name? Can't even remember his name. Thor. What's his name?
Noah Syndergaard.
That's my bad. Yeah, Noah Syndergaard. That's the guy I'm interested in.
The Thor came out. You're probably just thinking Chris Hemsworth.
There you go.
Pretty close.
All right, let's move on from the Shohei Ohtani and the pitching speculation. Let's talk Mariners for a little bit. Robbie Ray has turned his season around after the slow start. Joel, I know you have a big crush on Robbie Ray.
The biggest.
You just have a crush on everyone.
Who doesn't even have a crush on?
All right.
I like men.
These Seattle Mariners are a real contender. Are they going to be buyers at the deadline, or do they have a team that they're going to just stick with?
No, they're already buyers right now. Like they picked up Carlos Santana. Yeah, who
they'll be in the sweepstakes for Luis Castillo, Frankie
This
Montas.
is what I'm asking. Are they in on some bigger names? Are they going to drive the price up on some of these bigger targets?
Yeah, Jerry DiPoto trades for everybody. They're going to be in on anybody available. Brian Reynolds, Montas, everyone.
So there's only so many teams that can make the playoffs. Should we do a quick let's have a quick look at the AL standings here. As it stands right now, we got the Yankees, we've got Houston, and we've got the Twins leading the divisions. We've got, I guess, the Red Sox, the Rays, and the Blue Jays holding on those last 3 wild card spots. But if the Jays lose today to the Mariners, I believe we're tied with the Mariners.
Yep.
Beyond that, Baltimore making a push. And we've got Cleveland, Chicago White Sox. Neither of those 2 teams are going away. Texas and LA, are either of those teams going to be in? I mean, Texas just spent a bunch in the offseason. Are they going to throw good money after bad and keep going? Or are they going to look to next year?
Next year.
Yeah, I think if they can stick near 500, they got to think that's a step from where they were last year.
Yeah.
I'll see what they might trade.
What about Baltimore? Is Baltimore just super impressed with themselves and they're happy to finish the season not a laughingstock, or are they going to make a push now that they're this close?
I think they'll finish well enough that they're not forced to trade away guys like Trey Mancini or even Cedric Mullins, but good enough to just keep those guys and stick with what they got. They might not even trade any of their bullpen arms, just keep that group.
They have a really strong farm system too. They have guys like Grayson Rodriguez is knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Heston
Hunter
Kierstead, like they
Hunter Henderson.
don't have to trade. Like next year they will be even better because of the couple of guys that are knocking on the door. So,
No pressure. No pressure.
yeah.
That's
Okay.
part of the problem though too, right? With these teams all feeling like they're in it. Like at the beginning of the season, you would not have thought that at any point Baltimore might have been hovering around the edges, right? It does reduce the number of teams available to make a trade with at the deadline.
Okay, so this is a point that Scott made a few weeks ago in saying that expanded playoffs didn't improve the competitive balance of the league. Are we now in agreement that this is a good thing and that with expanded playoffs there are more teams in the hunt? I mean, by definition, I would think if there's less teams to trade with, that means there's fewer teams that are just selling off, right? That's a good thing.
Yeah. Players become more expensive, less players to get.
Right? So from a player's standpoint, expanded playoffs was good. Yes, no? Joel?
Yeah, well, I like expanding the playoffs, but now you almost need to expand the league. You know, you need to create more teams so that there are more teams making the playoffs, but there are still also more teams that are not in it, so that you have more options for trades at this point of the season. So that also just to build the league, like other leagues have expanded beyond 30 teams at this point. So I think if you can expand the playoffs, you get more teams in the playoffs, more people interested come playoff time, but get a few more teams in there so that at this point in the season, there are moves being made, because, you know, you definitely need to be finding somebody to make a move with at this point in the season. And your options are much less because there's more teams in contention.
All right, temperature check on this team in general. We kind of addressed the pitching already.
They're losing right now.
Yeah,
They're
just
losing now?
gave up 2-run homer. Yeah.
Phenomenal. Okay, well, that feels about right as this team is heading towards a sweep in Seattle. We don't have to talk about pitching anymore. We need everything. Is a left-handed bat worth pursuing at this point, or what is the solution to the offensive problems that we're having? Does any of this fall on Papa Charlie's shoulders? Joel?
Oh, I don't. It just feels like our the team's what's the word I'm looking for? Our sorry. You know, like our the word I'm looking for is like, you know, our well, I can't find the word.
That's all right.
Glad
We'll
we
come
started
back
with
to
you.
you. We'll
Yeah, I'm
come
sorry.
back to
Yeah,
you, Joel.
yeah, go.
It's all right. He misses one game and he's in a funk now. So let's go to our Iron Man, Jen. Then, Jen, how much of this latest free fall is a Papa Charlie issue? How much of it is internal? I know we just had the closed doors players only meeting that George Springer called. It was nice to see that he did it, but that was Friday, and we haven't really seen any sort of injection of anything into this team since then. So
I don't know how often those players only meetings take place, but that's the second one this season. Right. So
Yeah.
that doesn't sound like it bodes well. And so I saw somebody, Josh Hausum, post some stats. But since June 1st, now today's been a little bit of a different story, or the last couple of days, but I looked up the statistics today. Since June 1st, George Springer has been slashing 205, 299, 419. Boba Shet has been slashing 248, 320, 22, 408. And his overall weighted runs created plus is 99. So those are 1 and 2 at the top of the lineup. Those are the guys getting the most at bats. And so I don't know how, like, on the one hand, I understand the mentality of sticking with these guys, and George Springer has always been a leadoff hitter, and so on and so forth, and you want to show that you have faith in them as players. I understand that mentality. The other side of that is they're not hitting. They are not hitting like a number one and a number two hitters. And so that, I would say, is the only thing perhaps that could be put on Charlie, is changing the lineup construction, changing the order of the lineup. Beyond that, if guys are underperforming, and let's be honest, a lot of the offense is simply underperforming. I don't see how that is something that Charlie can control. I don't see how that lands on his shoulders.
I do agree. I think the lineup is too rigid. I think we're just stuck with this idea that Springer needs to be leading off every day, and that Bo needs to be 2 and Vlad 3. When really, we need to see Lourdes up higher in the lineup when he's hot, because he's always getting hits. You see Kirk even higher, Teo lower, depending on how he's doing. I don't know, like the Mariners, like their lineup has been switching up all year, and it's been working for them. So, but they do need to be better. Vlady, I mean, he's hitting well, but
it's underwhelming.
He came second in the MVP voting last year. Boba Shet is below league average as well as Springer. And when you're getting good performances from Biggio and Espinal early in the year and not quite using them properly, I think they got to start riding hot streaks. They just can't be letting these guys go cold at the top of the lineup.
I see a lot of nodding from Joel and Garth.
That's my one bad thing about Montoya so far this year.
The word I was looking for earlier was identity, right? Like our team's identity seems to have been lost. That like happy going, everybody's happy all the time from last season. You look over at the team and they're all in a funk, and that funk is, spread. And the idea that the lineup, I've hated the rigid lineup since day one. I don't like that at all. I hate that Springer leads off, hits solo home runs, and then like yesterday's game, one home run is hit, it's a solo home run because nobody's getting on for him at the bottom of the lineup. There's inconsistency. Nobody's protecting George Springer because you've got, a random guy filling in that 9 spot. It was good when Biggio had a 380 on base and they put him in the 9 spot, so at least you've got somebody on base for Springer there. But the idea of the lineup being so rigid, and that you feel a need that there's 4 guys who have to be 1, 2, 3, 4 in the lineup just makes no sense. Like earlier in the season, you play the hot hand in those top 3 hitters, right? Early in the season, Espinal was a 360 on base guy. You wasted him in the 8th spot. Now it seems like Biggio's a really good on base guy. He's not getting the amount of starts that he needs right now. It's just like we're so rigid in our construction of that lineup that.
So how is this not Charlie Montoya's fault then? He makes the lineup. Like I'm hearing a lot of like, well, the guys are slumping and the lineup is rigid. But like for me, these are all manager problems. Like if guys are slumping, like we need someone to come in, kick some ass, and do something. Like we've just been lazy and lethargic and like sluggish. Hot streaks be damned, cold streaks be damned. I don't know what it is, but it's like this is where you need a manager. And if George Springer's calling players only meetings, for me, I mean, the second one of the year, not a good sign, right? Also, it's telling me that like Montoya's not doing it. A players only meeting.
Well, he can't call a players only meeting.
Thanks, Jen. I mean,
sorry.
He's not doing what it takes to get this team, get their fucking heads out of their asses. Right? Like for me, that feels like George Springer's frustrated with the fact that like something needs to be done. And so they're taking it on themselves. On the one hand, it's good that you have leadership in the clubhouse, but it also, for me, shows a little bit of a void on the level above them. Jen, I'll let you
people
go.
said the same thing about John Gibbons, that he was too much of a player's manager. He was a little too laissez-faire, let the players run the clubhouse type of thing. And now there are people who want to bring him back in favor of firing Charlie, right? So I think
I'm not saying John Gibbons is the solution, but
I know. I'm just saying it's a lot of it I think is rhetoric, but I think Joel and I are both saying that Charlie absolutely should shake up the lineup, and that is something that he can control. But regardless of where you put Springer in the lineup, regardless of where you put Bo in the lineup, regardless of where you put any of these guys in the lineup, if they are not performing at the level that they should be performing, I don't think that is on Charlie.
What is the real tangible difference between this free fall and the free fall the Los Angeles Angels had that led to the dismissal of Joe Maddon? I know that was a 12-game streak of losses, but for me, it feels like the same. This is a team with 3 superstars. This is a team who, on paper, came into the season, should have been a playoff contender, was in free fall mode.
If you think our pitching depth is bad, you should look at the Angels roster because their team fell apart. And It's not really Joe Maddon's fault, but he was the fall guy for that.
So this is the similarity that I'm trying to draw here with Charlie Montoyo. And I'm not trying to say we should fire Charlie Montoyo. I know there isn't just like an easy solution out there, but like at some point, something's got to be done. Overpay for pitching.
I think that this is a very meticulous front office.
Yep.
Everything is in the details. They do not make rash decisions. They haven't done it since they got here. So I don't think Charlie's going anywhere this season. But his seat's getting warm. Mm-hmm. He is getting on the hot seat. If this team doesn't make the playoffs, he's probably gone. And I saw this on Twitter. People are like, "Oh, well, you're overreacting by saying that." Why? People were predicting the Jays to be up there for a World Series title this year, and we are looking like a middling club. We had an 8-game win streak in June. You take that away, that 8 days. You take that away, we're 4 games under 500. We're not a good team right now, and the rigidity of the lineup, yes, I'm glad that players are taking some accountability and holding their own meetings, but what can Springer say? Hey, Adam Simber, develop a 100-mile-an-hour fastball for the pen? You know what I mean? Hey, Bo, quit booting, easy plays at shortstop and, maybe get your on-base percentage up over 297. There's only so much that those types of, those are more raw, things are tough, but we're going to come out of it sort of meetings. They're not there's not much they can do. But I mean, Charlie has just been adamant about, I don't even have a big problem with Springer leading off. He's always done it. He has a great track record. But Boba Shet hitting in the 2-hole with a 297 on base percentage is killing this team, killing them. You can't have him batting that high. I'm sorry. And that's on Charlie. And those are the types of things that get managers fired when you fail to adapt to the situation that's been put in front of you.
The Orders right now.
The Boba Shet hitting second feels to me like a I don't want to say personal favor, but Boba Shet come arbitration talks gets to led the MLB in hits on his case, right? He gets to put top 5 in the MLB in hits on his case, right? All the other stats can be good, but there's nothing that goes to your arbitration case quite like awards and leading the league in any particular category. So for me, that feels like a big reason why Boba Shet's still hitting second on this team is he's a contender to lead the MLB in hits anytime he's hitting second. If we move him down the lineup, how many at-bats does it take away from him over the course of a year? I don't know. Maybe 50 if we move him down to 5th or 6th now.
Are the Blue Jays in the business of getting the most money for Bo in arbitration?
No,
Or
this
are
is
they in
why-
the business of winning games?
This is
Yeah.
my point, though. This is my
Like-
point, is that it feels like something needs to be done. Like that's the only argument for him hitting second still, is if as a buddy, like as a Papa Charlie type relationship, like, don't worry, Bo, I got your back, right? We're going to get you an extra $1 million come arbitration time. I could see Jen's already cringing. I know this is an oversimplification of what it is, but it's a microcosm of what's going on with this team, I think. And I do think that there's some truth to that, is that maybe it is a little too player friendly. I don't know. We can move on from here unless anybody else has something strong they want to add on the Charlie Montoyo hot seat. But Jen?
I am not sitting here necessarily advocating that he keep his job or whatever. I think a lot of times, if not most often, when a manager gets fired, they are the scapegoat. You can't get rid of all of the players, right? The front office isn't going to fire themselves. And so it's the manager or the hitting coach or whoever who is sort of that sacrificial lamb, if you will, right? We've done something. Here's what we've done. And I don't know that it's always the fair move. I understand why the move gets made, but it does not necessarily actually isolate and fix the problem, right? This lineup, and I don't mean the order, I just mean the players, was constructed in a certain way. The front office went out and signed Kikuchi, right? The front office, whatever, there's a lot of blame to go around for the fact that this team is in the position that it is in versus where they thought they would be when the season started. There's enough blame to go around that, like I said, sure, fire Charlie. And if he's being completely inflexible with the lineup, if they're asking him to change it and he's just flat out refusing, okay. But I don't think that's then all of a sudden this team goes on a run.
Well, that's a good point, Jen. I am a believer that at the end of the day, Charlie Montoyo is a front man that does what he's told. So if this lineup is rigid for a reason, it's most likely because he's feeling the pressure from people in positions more powerful than he is to run it that way. So, all right, I'm just seeing here, I don't know if this is breaking news or not. This is news to me from the live chat. Connor says the Tampa Bay Rays have been swept by the Cincinnati Reds.
Yep.
And Wander Franco is heading to the IL for 6 to 8 weeks. Also, Kevin Kiermaier heading to the IL. Not quite as long by the looks of it, though. Wow, that's big news. Unfortunate injury for one of the game's young stars. Division rival or not, I don't think anybody wants to see injuries to young players, so that's too bad. Well, the Rays then are going to be buyers at the deadline, right? The Rays aren't going to just fold up shop, so I'm exhausted by this whole Blue Jays season, if I'm being completely blunt. What's the score now in the game, folks?
You lost.
Top of 9, Mariners are
Well,
up
the good thing is that
6-5.
you only have half of it left.
Yeah, I was texting with my brother there yesterday, and he goes, "This is so hard." And he compared it to fantasy football. Like when you have a bad fantasy football team, your whole fall is ruined. He's like, that's kind of like what the Blue Jays are right now, except that you lose every fucking day. And I was like, yep, that's about right. So,
Well, we got it's still on, right? Or is it over?
it's top of 9 right now.
2 out,
Yeah,
Springer
one.
up.
Yeah, one out, right? Like one out left.
We just lost.
Oh, we just lost.
No.
So that's 9. That's 9 out of 10. Yeah, I see it.
Your
Jen behind you.
TV.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So that's
there you
9 out of 10, though, right? Like it was 12 in a row when Madden got cut loose. There weren't the expectations on the Angels that were put on the Jays this year. They wanted
Thank
to
you.
be playoff teams. We're World Series hopefuls, right? And that's like at what point does this slide right now? I think honestly, I'm there, right there, right now. Being swept by Seattle.
Like this is as as must win as it could feel, like this is a team we had 4 games up on for a wild card spot coming into this series, and now we're tied with them. Like, this isn't just losing to the Royals and we go, it's the Royals. It sucks. We should have won, but like, this is direct competition. This is bad. Yeah. This is really bad. It's officially a sweep now. We lost to the Athletics in that series 2-1. We got the Phillies coming to town, and then the Royals for 4.
See, like the point that I wanted to get to is that, like, here's a game that they had to win. Okay, here's a game that they had to win, and they didn't start Chapman. Chapman was not played today. Like, it's probably a rest day or whatever. No, this is a game that you have to say, hey, we're going to win one in front of this West Coast fan base that, you know, came
Tomorrow's
across the board, right? We got to win. We got to win today. Chapman's not playing.
Now, mind you, tomorrow, a lot of them are apparently going to the funeral. So, I mean, it's a rest day in terms of the lack of physicality, but mentally not a rest day. But
it's gonna be a long day between that and the travel back from the West Coast back to Toronto.
Right.
Tomorrow is going to be a grind for many reasons, absolutely, but doesn't take away from the point that Joel's making that
absolutely
this was. I know we all agree on this. This was must win. This is the day where you need your stars to go out and play through soreness, play through fatigue.
Oh, true, but like I'm almost at the point where I'm like, is the best lineup for this team not have Matt Chapman? You're like, you know, is it a better team with Biggio and Espinal on the field than Chapman out there? And it's just like Chapman's a platinum glove winner, but his outs above, you know, his defensive play this year is not. He's a 1 WAR player at 81 games in one WAR. You know, that's.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far off the deep end with advanced metrics
I'm just mad because those 4 guys that we dealt to Oakland, I really wish we had so we could deal now.
Well, I mean, that is part of the reason we don't have depth and we don't have prospects. The cupboards are not bare, but that's part of it, right? Making those trades.
But what you're diving into now when you make a trade are those blue chip prospects, right? Like, you're going from 4 guys who could get you a star to moving potential stars, right? So.
All right, let's pivot slightly here at the end of the Jays Mariners game, and let's play our favorite game of guess. All right, so this is a fun one. Some surprising numbers. I will give you that as a hint today. In honor of it being episode number 23. We're going with Zach Greinke. Total career earnings to date. And up first, Joel.
Oh, put me on the hot seat first. 200?
200 from Joel. Lewis, what do you got?
He's been playing for a while.
A long time.
Got that big deal in Arizona. Did he sign with the Dodgers? Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go near the 200. I'll go 215. That's my number.
215. All right, Jen.
I was gonna go 220.
220 for Zach Greinke. All right, and Garth, what do you got for Zach Greinke, the weirdest player in the MLB?
Oh, he's made bank. I'm gonna say like 265.
Oh, 265. That's a lot of money for Zach Greinke.
Hey, he's had some big contracts.
The correct number, and this one fucking shocked me when I saw it. Total career earnings for Zach Greinke, $330 million. Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
That
so
is insane.
Garth, you're the closest with 265. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Okay. Trying to think of a topic today that wasn't Blue Jay centric, but I don't know. I just started looking over some numbers, and I had to go with this. Is Boba Shet good? Like, no, really. Like, this is the question I'm asking. Everyone seems to think that he is this superstar of a player. And I think by judging, like, not on a small sample size either, this is half a season, I don't think Boba Shet's very good. Starting today, his on-base percentage was .297. His OPS plus was 100, league average, mediocre. He had a .09 B WAR and a 1.5 F WAR. His F WAR is lower than a guy that they played this weekend. Cal Raleigh, a part-time catcher for Seattle, has a higher F WAR. He has -6 defensive runs saved at shortstop. So this season, he's basically about a league average hitter and less than a league average defender. So everyone's talking about how are we going to be able to sign Bo and Vlad? And I'm saying in 3 years, are we even going to want, like when he's finished arbitration after 3 more seasons, are we even going to want Boba Shet? Out to you guys.
That is a hot take, Garth. I see Lewis was nodding along.
Numbers don't lie.
Boba Shet's a good player. This year he's.
Yeah, but is he a $250 million 10-year player?
I think for a long time I've said that the Jays
That everybody
really
seems to
weren't.
think he is.
I never thought we were gonna extend Bo. You know, he's got his type of game can fall apart quickly. You know, all the swings and misses. But this year he's underperforming his expected batting average, his expected slugging, his xWOBA. I think he's still fine. There's obviously some holes in his game. Defensively, he's never going to be above average, but he has improved recently. That could all fall apart, but has improved recently. But he's bad now. I don't think he's going to get a big deal. I don't think it's going to be from us. But, you know, if there isn't a shortstop coming through the system, there's no harm in keeping him for a little bit.
Joel or Jen?
But should he be playing shortstop?
For the team right now?
Yeah, like could he be moved to second base and let Espinal play short? Espinal's a far superior defender. Like, why? The thing I'm getting at basically is why does Boba Shet have the reputation of an all-star caliber player when he has had one good season in Major League Baseball? Everyone seems to think he's going to be this perennial all-star, you know, great player for the next 15 years. And I don't think he is.
It's kind of funny because he made the all-star team.
Well, he made it last year.
And this year, too.
He's a reserve.
I thought it was just Springer and Manoa.
Oh, he didn't? He didn't? Oh, my bad.
He didn't make it.
Oh, I overestimated. Sorry. No, I think
today, as of today, it is just George Springer as reserve.
That would have been funny. Anyway, I think, by the way, making it the finalist round was kind of crazy. I don't know how we did that, but
name recognition.
Yeah, he's just.
Yep. Nice hair.
He's a guy. He's a dude.
Boba Shet is not just a dude. You guys are crazy. I love these crazy takes. Boba Shet is so good at baseball. Like, relax a little bit.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's
a dude, meaning he's not just a dude. He's
like
a dude.
He's a dude.
No, Cav, like,
what are you saying?
Tappy is a dude. Bradley Zimmer's a dude.
No. Like, he's
no. He means it like
around baseball. He's a dude. Like, if you say his name, like, everyone knows who he is. He's just he's a dude.
This is the fact you guys are even Garth. I love the hot take of this. Jen, you could chime in a second here. I just got to say, like, yeah, Boba Shet having a down season, but this is also his second full season in baseball, and this is the time of year where, or in any player's career, right? They come up as a hitter, maybe they're hot. Year number 2, pitchers adjust. Year number 3, now we see what the guy's really made of.
But we have seen tons of players come in the league, have a great first season or two, and then just shit the bed. and they never develop into the player that we think they're going to. Like, if you told me at the end of last season, what did you expect for Boba Shet coming into 2022? And everyone, sky's the limit. Kid's got all the talent in the world.
So are
Doesn't
you on
mean
the
shit, man, if
are
you don't
you on the
perform.
trade Alejandro Kirk train then?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No.
Well, it's kind of
No,
the same argument, though, isn't it? Is it not? Like, Alejandro Kirk is sky's the limit, but it's like one full season here. So
I'm not saying we should trade Boba Shet. I'm saying, is he a good player? Is he worthy of contract extension talks and buying out years of arbitration? And I don't think he is.
maybe not. Joel, you have any thoughts on Boba Shet?
I think it's like a situation with him where you got to look at like the first 1,500 at bats for him as a pro, like because his first start, his incredibly aggressive tendencies paid off for him. Going up there and say with the mentality of I'm going to swing at every single pitch that I can get my bat onto. That's his style. The style is very unique in how aggressive he is. But then the league took a shift and attacked him differently. I think they're attacking him differently this year. He doesn't see anything really inside. Everything is low. Everything is away. So the shift that the league took to attack him this year is like in the first 1,500. You hear it all the time when old school baseball heads talk, and they go, that first 1,500 at bats is you coming into the league adjusts to you, you adjust to the league, and back and forth until about 1,500 at bats, and then that's pretty much who you are. And I feel like Bo came in, he found success in that approach, but then the league corresponded. They attack him differently now. And now Bo has to go up there and understand that swinging first pitch every single time, swinging isn't going to get you the results that you need. Your approach needs to shift slightly. You need to be able to attack a pitch in a specific location, because you can't just be sitting there and go, I can handle up fastball and then slider low and away. I'm going to try to go after that too early in the count. You have to be specific. He has to get a little bit more patient. He has to change his approach slightly, but I think there's an absolute stud there still. So
Do you think you can make that adjustment?
I think so.
Me too.
I think so. Absolutely.
I think so. Garth, I want to ask you one more thing, and then we can get Jen's thoughts here before we move on to the next round. But what are your thoughts on Vlady Guerrero Jr. then in comparison? Is he also overrated and a bum? Because he's had a big regression from last year as well, if not bigger.
Yeah, but I mean, look at last year. Like, last year was a historic season for a kid his age. And it's not like he's not a league average hitter. His OPS, I checked the other day, was still like around our OPS plus is around 150, like give or take. So he's still 50% better than the league average hitter, which is pretty good. Bo is a league average hitter this season with less than average defense. And like, I don't know.
I got to push back a little bit on Bo's defense. I don't think it's below average. I don't think it's elite. I don't think he's going to be a Gold
negative
Glove
6
winner,
defensive run save. And
that's above average. Likes him a bit.
Yeah, but he says you hear it on the broadcast all the time. Like, Bo's working real hard on his defense and he's getting so much better. And the second those words come out of Tabby's mouth, he fucking airmails one over Vladdy's head. And even today, the J-Rod made it to first base. It was a tough play for Bo. He should never have even thrown the ball. Vlad made a great catch to save an extra run. Like, his aggressiveness is he's aggressive to a fault on both ends of the game.
Lewis, you have your hand raised nicely.
Yeah.
Jen appreciates it.
Yeah, I'm still in high school, but Xander Bogaerts went through the exact same thing Boba Shet did. Age 24 season, 2 previous years of being an above average hitter and okay defense, and he was bad, below average, 95 WRC plus, age 24 season. And looking at Xander Bogaerts now, he's one of the best offensive shortstops in baseball. A terrible defense, obviously. Bo kind of matches him in that area of not great defense. They're not the same player, but players do go through these years of just getting behind the 8 ball a bit. And I think that happened to Bo. But this second half, I do believe there is a turnaround inside of him. As for a lot of the guys in the lineup, like especially Chapman, Springer, even Teo.
We
I'm not
talked
worried.
about it.
I'm
I
not
just
as-
want to agree with you, Lewis. But we talked. I think that Xander Bogaerts reference is a great one. We talked about it a lot last year with Marcus Semien and the comparisons there as well. Struggled defensively early in his career. Did not put up the same numbers, and like it does take a little bit of time. And how old is Boba Shet right now? 24, 23?
4.
Yeah,
24.
I love the hot take, Garth. Jen, anything else you want to add before we play the next round?
He's a little over 1,300 at bats right now. So he is approaching that 1,500 at bat mark that Joel was mentioning. I think he is a good player. I think he could be a great player. Can he change his approach? That's what we need to see.
So what you're saying is fire Charlie. I'm just kidding. Sorry. Couldn't resist myself.
But kind of backtracking, and I think Joel said it. To be honest, I don't think they're going to extend Bo. I don't even know that they're going to extend Vlad. I don't think it's going to end up even being a question, because I don't think either one of these guys are going to sign extensions regardless. That's just that's always been my sense of things. I think just they come from money and they come from a baseball family. And I think they will want to test free agency. The only way I think they would get Bo, let's say, on an extension is if Bo was continuing to underperform in next season, the following season, and was seeing his value decline potentially. But I don't know. I mean,
wow, what a cheery podcast after the Blue Jays get swept down in Seattle. Here we are. If you thought things are bad now, wait till Bo and Vlad both leave in free agency. Yeesh.
I could be reading the tweets that I'm seeing if you would like.
No, let's move on to our next round. We only have 45 minutes left, and we still have at least 4 more rounds of this to get to. Garth, do you have one last thing you want to add to Boba Shet?
I was just going to say, I completely agree with Jen. Bo and Vlad are different than most young players coming into the league because their dads played and their dads made bank. And, there's no rush for them.
Of course.
So.
Very good. Okay, next round. Lewis, you're up first. Total career earnings, Justin Verlander.
Well, he's been good forever.
It's been good forever.
Keeps on getting better. Dude, got 20 mil. Yeah, he's going to be another guy who's probably upwards of 300. Maybe. I'm going to go. So tough. What? 310 on the dot, I'd say.
310 from Lewis. All right. Jen, you're up next.
322.
322. Garth, what do you got for Justin Verlander?
280.
280. And lastly, Joel, what do you got?
340.
340. The correct answer. Justin Verlander, career total earnings to date, 317. Lewis, congratulations. Floor is yours, my friend.
Well, I don't really have a question to pose, but I do have confidence in a much better second half from the Toronto Blue Jays. Everyone is really upset. Everyone's angry. But I really think there's still a lot this team is yet to show. The All-Star break's going to be great. A break for this team is going to be the best thing ever. And we've seen teams succeed from really bad starts before. I mean, like last year, the Atlanta Braves, not the year before that because that was Dodgers, but Nationals as well. Mm-hmm. This team, it does have holes, but it's only going to get better with health, with trades, and maybe a bit of good luck here and there. I really think we're going to be fine. And if we're not, it's always next year. I know no one likes to say that. No one likes to say that, but our only free agent going into the offseason without trades is Ross Stripling. and David Phillips. We're in a good spot as a franchise. I'm not too worried.
Well, there you go. Jays have lost 4 in Seattle. Bo and Vlad are leaving in free agency, and there's always next year. Have a great night, everybody. I need a drink.
Can I comment on that
Please,
and just
please do, Jen.
further be a Debbie Downer? And I apologize. I'm really not this negative of a human being. I swear.
It's easy to be negative right now as a Jays fan. So go ahead.
The only thing I would say to that is Bo and Vlad. For sure they've got three more seasons with this team, right? So this was supposed to be the start of something really good, right? With this team. And if it's not, it's another year gone of Vlad and Bo. That to me is part of the problem, right? Is that the Jays have a window based on the fact that they know they have the two of them, and we can debate Bo, Garth, we can whatever, right? But the Jays know they have the two of them for the next 3 seasons, 4 if you count this one. And so that is their window, or, real window in terms of adding the players around them and really making that push. And if this season, it's already gone sideways, if it then goes completely downhill, it is a year of Vlad and Bo wasted. And that I think would be a huge organizational failure.
Imagine being an Angels fan.
Well, thankfully I'm not. So, I mean, that's a whole other thing.
Oh, I agree with Lewis. I mean, all we need to do is make the playoffs. We saw what the Braves did last year. They made a couple of small moves. They picked up Soler, who was a beast for them in the playoffs.
Peterson,
they did it without their best player. They didn't have Acuna Jr. all that whole run. Yeah. So I mean, all we need to do is make the playoffs. Anything could happen. I mean, we've beaten the Yankees in a series. Why couldn't we do it in the playoffs too? Of course we can. Like it's so weird. The playoffs are a completely different beast. So I mean, if we can squeak into the playoffs, I still think the Jays have a good shot. Our offense, we can hit anybody, but we have to get there.
Have to be hot at the right time. Very good points from everybody. All right, let's play the next round here. Career total earnings. Baltimore Oriole, Chris Davis, one of the all-time money bandits in MLB history. Jen, you're up first.
I have no idea. 250. I have no idea.
250 from Jen. Garth, what do you got?
I completely forgot he existed.
I'm gonna say 200.
200 for Garth. All right, Joel, what do you got for Chris Davis?
I'll go 185.
185. And Lewis, what do you got, Chris Davis?
So we only signed the one deal for sliding first baseman. I get 238.
238 for Lewis. The correct number is very close to being correct. 187. Joel, 185. The floor is yours.
Okay. My topic is when I sit and I watch us go against Baltimore, when I watch us go against New York, when I watch us go against now Seattle, I see that the opponents have pretty much given up on the concept of a multi level bullpen, and they go after one thing, and it's velocity. They look for velocity and a slide. You're not seeing specialists coming out of the bullpen so much on these dominant teams. You're seeing one approach, and it's who cares if he's a righty, who cares if he's a lefty. If that ball gets to 98, 99, you need 4 guys like that coming out of the pen. We have never, ever had that bullpen. We have never taken that approach even like when you take our top closer in Romano and you throw him on the Yankees, he'd probably be the 5th best bullpen on that team. You know, he'd be number 4, number 3, number 4. Our approach, do you think the approach of trying to have a bullpen that can attack any situation, is that right anymore? Or is it just you need guys to come in and throw 100 miles an hour? And why don't we have anybody that's coming in and throwing 100 miles an hour?
Oh, that is you're suggesting that we have a bullpen that can attack any situation?
No. I'm saying that that's the approach, is that you're trying to get arms that serve different situations, but instead the other teams don't really care about that. They care about one thing, and that's attacking with ferocious velocity. And that just doesn't seem to be the bullpen arms that we bring in. No, you know, Simber was a great addition last year, but very like specialty arm type situation that you use in really, really, really big situations, as opposed to seeing guys in Baltimore, in Seattle hitting 102. You know, you've got this guy now is hitting 99. You know, it's 4 or 5 arms coming out of New York. When you get into the bullpen, it's harder, right? It's more difficult to deal with those arms. That's the shift that they made because of high velocity. You look at, you know, St. Louis pulling multiple guys that throw 100 miles, like 102, 100 isn't even 100 anymore. You're looking at guys coming up throwing consistently 102. So it's just like, I just don't know why in my entire fandom is like Billy Koch. You know, we go back 20 years, we had a guy who could throw 100 miles an hour. It just doesn't seem to be a thing.
We have Nate Pearson.
I think
is Nate Pearson at Voldemort levels where it's just a he who should not be named situation? Like,
Maybe.
All right.
He who should have been traded 2 seasons ago when his value was high.
Yeah. No value in a trade there. Not anymore, that's for sure.
I don't
know, Joel. That's fuck. This is one positive podcast we're putting out into the world. Holy smokes!
I think we've been caught a bit too early in it. I think we're starting to develop guys that throw really hard. Nick Frasso, Yolsberg's related to Hagen Danner is a guy we haven't seen that is going to eventually show up in this bullpen. You know, and
Hagen Danner's on the 40 man right now. Converted
we'll
catcher
see.
for anybody that doesn't know. Throws 100 miles an hour. Struggles with control big time. He's in AAA right now, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, there's a non-zero chance we see him at least get a shot if he can figure out his control sometime this year.
I think the organization is beginning to develop with that pure thought in mind, just to throw the ball as hard as possible. And earlier we didn't have that thought. I think teams are starting to realize, we have this guy with his tool. He's now our second best reliever in our bullpen, you know. But we never really started with that. We did have Nate Pearson and Julian Merriweather for 3 innings was that guy. So the Jays have been a bit unlucky with that area because Nate Pearson and Merriweather, I mean, imagine if they were what they had, our bullpen would be amazing right now. But I think they've just been a bit unlucky with the 100 mile per hour arms in the bullpen.
It's unfortunate. Some real velocity would be nice on this team. Even Jordan Romano, I don't think he's hit 100 all season, has he? Correct me if I'm wrong
99
there.
once. It was a ball up.
Of course. Panic level on Jordan Romano before we move on? Is he has not been getting much use as of late. It seems to be, I don't know if he was overworked in the early stretch of the season, underworked now, but what's your confidence in Jordan Romano closing out a game in the playoffs? Garth, let's go to you.
He seems to like to make it interesting. You know, there's very few Romano appearances where it's just 8 pitches just dominating and he's out of the inning. It's always you got a leadoff walk, and then that guy steals second, and then I don't know. He's our best reliever. You know,
can I pause you there and reframe this question? Is an elite closer someone that bumps Jordan Romano out of that spot as closer.
Yes.
Is that what we should be looking for at this trade deadline?
Yes.
Yeah. If there's someone available that's better than Romano, we have to be the number one team.
Okay.
We have to be.
No,
Should we be prioritizing a proper
I think
closer then
Romano
over
would
a
suit up
Luis Castillo type starting pitcher? Like, would you rather see an elite closer versus an elite starter?
Oh, elite starter, 100%.
Elite starter?
Please
Yeah.
starter.
Has to be.
An elite starter will give us 7 innings, a game. And an elite closer will
Agreed.
give us 1 inning.
Agreed.
You know,
2 innings
yeah,
a week.
yeah. We need a starter. Like it's putting so much it's putting so much wear and tear on the bullpen. We can't keep rolling out 2 bullpen days a week. We just can't.
They're sure, yeah, I'd say fun to watch, but that's not true. All right, let's move on to our last round here of guess the total career earnings. Garth, you're up first. Vernon Wells, former Blue Jay.
Ooh,
Another.
he made some. He got a pretty good
bandit in the
contract
MLB.
there. I'm gonna say like 175.
175. All right. Joel, you're up next.
Me?
Joel, you're up next. Sorry, move
okay.
my mic like an idiot.
All good. I'll go with. It was. What'd you say, Garth? 175.
175.
I'll go 150.
150 for Joel. Lewis, what do you got?
Vernon Wells. Let's go 140.
140. Were you old enough to be watching baseball or anything when Vernon Wells was a Blue Jay?
My first real memory of being committed to watching Blue Jays baseball was Nate Pearson's debut. So
All right. Yeah, we're old.
we're
old.
Sorry.
Lewis is a young gun. Here we go.
Sorry guys.
All right, Jen, what do you got?
125.
125. All right. Career total earnings for former Blue Jay Vernon Wells, $151 million. Joel was closest at 150. You've already talked. So, Jen, the floor is yours.
I had trouble coming up with a topic for today. I do have one that is partly for the people who are listening, if they can maybe provide some replies in the chat, and then if you can relay those replies to me.
Will do.
I have a friend who is asking where to sit at the Rogers Center for a Blue Jays game that is a good place to sit, but is economical. So I'll admit I tend to sort of sit in the same location. So I couldn't necessarily say, oh, the sun is going to be in your eyes or something, or rather, this view is going to be partially obstructed or whatever. So if anybody has any suggestions of places to sit for a Blue Jays game that offer, a decent enough view. These are not baseball aficionados who will be going. This would
They want to have a good time at the ballpark.
This will be their first ever baseball game that they're attending. But they also, like I said, want to do it somewhat cost effectively. So if anyone has any suggestions, that would be great. And then as a topic for the panel, Chris Sale, passionate baseball player, something that more teams or more players could use to some degree, or stone cold psychopath.
Okay. I just want to jump in here for anybody who's not familiar with the Chris Sale story. Rehab stint in AAA, was it correct?
Yep.
The pitching, the outing did not go as he would have hoped, and then proceeded to have what can only be described as a meltdown, a tantrum, in the clubhouse. Very destructive, embarrassing behavior. Okay, with that in mind, go ahead. The floor is everybody's. Chris Sale, passionate or?
Like, is there any level, like if you kind of put it on a barometer, I think he's here, right? Woo. Maybe past it.
I think I think he's a psychopath. This isn't his first meltdown. He's melted down in the dugout many times. When he was with Chicago, he didn't like a certain uniform, so he took scissors to a bunch of jerseys and cut them up like an hour and a half before a game.
That was him. Okay.
Yeah,
I remember that.
I think, like, I don't know. I'm not in Chris Sale's head, but like, he has never really had to deal with a ton of adversity up until the last couple of seasons. You know, he was a great pitcher, got drafted high, came into the league, was awesome, dominant, and then the last few seasons he has been hurt. And to go into a rehab stint and just like, you're in AAA. These guys all look up to you. They all idolize you. And you go in there and throw a little hissy fit because you shit the bed in a couple of innings. You know, like, that's just, I mean, he said, oh, well, I'm going to pay for the TV. And it, like, big deal. You know, like, that's not setting an example for those guys. And, I mean, they're not paying him to set examples. They're paying him to be one of the best pitchers in the league. But to put up, like, that type of display in front of AAA guys, like,
So I guess what I'm asking is there any level of that? Is there any place on the continuum where you think it could be a motivator or a positive thing? Because he's not the first guy we've seen stuff like was it David Ortiz who destroyed the phone?
Yeah.
Right? Like where's sort of that line, I guess?
Joey Votto is the
Joey
line.
Votto?
I'm a supporter of throwing stuff. Sometimes
I say Chris Sale should be the next manager of the Blue Jays. I'm just kidding. Get these troops riled up.
I think there is a time and a place for, you know, having some anger, like we saw Shane McClanahan doing after his postseason fall apart last year. He went to the tunnel and started throwing stuff, but like a rehab start, you got to keep your head cool, man. It doesn't matter at all. Literally does not matter. I think he had to realize that.
Did you read the part in the article about how he has learned not to punch stuff when he throws a tantrum?
That's smart.
He's learned how to, like, yeah, well, but I mean, like, you honestly have to be taught not to punch shit when you have a bad start? Like,
yeah, I use my left.
Yeah.
I use my left to
He's got to use your right. He's got to use his right.
Oh, yeah, left hand. It's the whole. Isn't that the joke in Bull Durham?
Bull Durham. I was going to go right.
Yeah, like,
yeah. Would you hit me with your right or your left?
Yeah, your right or your left. My left. Good.
Meet a drunk guy in a bar. You don't hit him with your pitching hand. I was going to say that it's interesting because at the same time, Scherzer was down for rehab starts, and he did the exact opposite, right? He got like his entire team. He took them out for like a steak dinner, bought everybody steak dinner, bought them all AirPods. So he kind of like came down and, you know, flexed his money and made them all feel good and added a spark to the minor league side of the team. But at the same time, I think that like there are a lot more of those flip out moments that you just don't see because they go down the tunnel and they don't have a camera down the tunnel where you can see what they're doing. In that situation, it was like, you know, they got the camera down that tunnel, and it's a minor league situation, right? Like it was a fan who had filmed it, right?
Yeah.
So you get a little bit closer to those types of players in that situation, but it was a wild.
I bet every pitcher has had a moment like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe except Jacob deGrom. I don't think he's ever had to do that.
Yeah, like when they go down into the tunnel, that's what they're going down there to do. Unless they're dealing with an injury, they're going down there to scream at the top of their lungs. So,
just want to note we do have quite a few comments on suggestions for seating for Jen. So I've noted them, and I'm not going to read them right now because it's not going to make for very good listening. But Jen, I will forward those to you.
Thank you.
And thank you for everybody for submitting those. Okay. Final suggestion of the day. We have one extra round. Mitch Bannon of Sports Illustrated was supposed to join us, but because of the way this Blue Jays game went tonight, he has to write an article instead. So understandably, Mitch Bannon's going to try and join us next week. But our final round, and then I will just bring my topic to the table, regardless of who wins. Josh Donaldson, career total earnings to date. Joel, we'll start with you.
Josh, I think what he signed, 132 to date, right? Like to date, it's not to the end of his career.
Correct. Yes. Lewis, Josh Donaldson.
He's been screwed out of a lot of money because of his arbitration and injuries and stuff. Okay, so probably got like 40 mil from us. What did they sign? 20 years with 20 mil for Atlanta. 80. Yeah, it's about 120. I'd say 130. I'm gonna go 130. What did you guess, Joel?
132 from Joel.
I will guess 130.
130. Okay, really painting yourself into a corner. I love it. Jen, what do you got?
I can only get the one below. The number below.
I could go 131.
There you go.
Yeah.
Really
It'd
screwed
have to
up.
be perfect.
Let's go 123.
123. And
corners
Garth,
me, yeah.
what do you got for Josh Donaldson?
Came up pretty late. I'm gonna say like 140.
140 from Garth.
We painted ourselves in here.
The correct number for Josh Donaldson career total earnings, $142 million.
Good for you, Josh.
There you go. So the floor is all mine by default, and I will take it gladly. This is a non-baseball, non-sports topic. I was just reading, going down rabbit holes over the weekend, and I don't know if anybody saw the article of the Google engineer who said that they have a AI chatbot who had achieved sentience. Right? Okay, so Joel's familiar with this story.
It has what? Sorry.
Achieve sentience, like it's a sentient being. It is no longer just relying on programming. It is a conscious being and needs to be protected as such. How's everyone feel about AI in general? We'll keep this brief because I know this is supposed to be a baseball show. Do you think we're close? Is this something that we should be scared of? How's everybody's spider senses feeling when it comes to AI? Joel, you're familiar with the story, so we'll go to you first.
Yeah. I'm thinking it could be a great replacement for Montoya. Just bring in a robot
I love it.
and run it. Like if you were going to go a team that's strictly based on, analytics and all that stuff, well, might as well just get a robot to be our manager. So
can you imagine sentient robot umpires that still have shitty strike zones?
Guys getting in arguments with sentient robot umpires.
Yeah. Amazing. Oh my God.
I thought of a bad joke.
All right, you save it for after the show, Lewis. You save it for after the show. Okay, my last thought on this. Joel, are you familiar with what the Turing test is?
Oh, yes. If it's pretty much the Blade Runner test.
Yeah, so it's like if a human is interacting with an AI, is the AI able to convince the human that it is talking to another human? Basically?
Yeah, Alan Turing, right? The guy who created the computer, I'm familiar.
So that is the threshold by which like AI becoming sentient is kind of measured essentially. And to date, no AI have passed it. Not smart enough to pass the test. But my argument that I want to put out there and just make everybody uncomfortable with is that by the time an AI is smart enough to pass that test, it will be aware of how threatened humans are by AI, so it will be smart enough to fail the test. Right? So then maybe we're already there. Just saying.
Whoa.
All right, so that's my conspiracy theory for the night.
Is it like aliens have been here the whole time?
Exactly.
There are some humans I interact with that don't pass the test. So,
Amazing,
that's
Jen.
Yeah,
that's
they're
one
called
thing.
Yankees fans.
All right, let's we got 20 more
Jays
minutes, so
fans, too.
let's pivot now to some fun things. Alejandro Kirk making his All-Star game debut, starting catcher for the AL. Pretty cool for the big guy. Alejandro Kirk, feelings on him. Trade material, keep material. Is he the catcher of this team in 2027?
Lewis, just give a thumbs down.
Lewis gave a thumbs down. He gave some thumbs up. So, Lewis, let's get your thoughts on Kirk first.
If he's still catching in 2027, that'd be amazing. That's just my little piece.
Do you think he's a DH by then, or do you think he's out of the league?
Well, he'll still be hitting. His hit tool will keep him in the league for a long time. But catching, it's a lot of wear and tear. It ain't nice. So.
That's a good point. Catching wear and tear. This is already a catcher who can't really catch back-to-back games. Can't catch more than 3 or 4 games in a week.
Very happy the Jays are doing that though, limiting him.
I mean, it's good, but I was watching Blair and Barker this week, and this was Barker's frustration with the way this team is constructed right now. Is we've got so many guys on this team that we have to really handle with a fine-tooth comb about you don't want to get them too overworked, right? Like George Springer is going to be a 50-50 DH down the stretch because we got to keep him healthy for playoffs. Vlady, we can't get him overworked too much, so we need to keep him in the lineup for DH on occasion. Alejandro Kirk, enough said there, right? Like,
these are human beings. Every team's got to do this, I think.
Is it just that simple that this is just the way baseball is now? 162 games is too much, and it's okay to have 3.5 guys that are all going to share the DH role?
Yeah, I'm sore after I played 1 game today, pitched 2 innings, and I'm not going to do anything for the next couple of days. I am sore. So baseball is tough on the body.
Joel, how are you feeling about Alejandro Kirk?
It would be nice if he would go on a kind of like a Vlady off season where he shed 20, 25 pounds, because that would really kind of help his.
It would be nice, but by all accounts, it sounds like he has kind of pushed back on the team when they've come to him, and he's like, this is who I am. I'm comfortable at this weight. I feel good at this weight.
Like, have you seen a picture of his family?
No.
You haven't seen you got to go look at that picture. They're like
I'll
all Kirks. There's just a big extended family, all Kirks. His dad looks exactly the same as him. It's just like, it's the standard body type of the family, right? And I'm just saying that from like a wear and tear standpoint. You're a 265 pound, 5'8" catcher. That's hard on the knees. If you like, I get it. He knows his body. He knows his size and everything, but. Just for the sake of like longevity and him being able to catch back-to-back games, if you can take a little bit of that weight off your knees, it would help. I think also as a situational thing, like one knee catching helps a lot. Like going down on one knee takes a lot of strain away from being in that squat for 9 innings. So like that is helping with catchers and their longevity. You just like, he's the guy who's exceeded expectations this year, right? Like, how many Blue Jays can you say that about? So I love him. I love to watch him. I love the way he looks. I'm
looking at a picture right now here, Joel, and he looks exactly like his dad. It's hilarious.
It's just, it's the genetics are it's a great picture. But yeah, like it's, you look at a guy, like, I'm not going to say he's Tony Gwynn, but the guy gets his bat to balls. He doesn't have the greatest baseball body, but like when it comes, what's Moneyball all about? It's like, are you looking for a guy who's handsome? Are you looking for Brad Pitt? Or are you looking for a guy who can hit? And that guy can hit. That guy can really fucking hit.
As long as he's going to continue to hit 320, he'll have a place in this league. Whether it's behind the plate, whether it's DH, a guy that has his swing mechanics, like, he's almost like slump proof. You see these big guys that have these long, like looping swings, and they kind of get out of whack. Kirk, it's physically impossible for him to have that. He's just this compact guy. He stays, his arms stay in tight. He's going to be he's a great hitter, period.
That's why
And that's how he got in the league. It doesn't matter. Like, he will always have a place in this league as long as he's, batting 220 or 320.
How long is his tenure with the Blue Jays, though? I know we don't have to get into the weeds about trading him this trade deadline.
We almost traded him, didn't we, for Ramirez?
Well, that was the rumored package. But let's look beyond this season. Does he have a place, or should he have a place with this team beyond this offseason? And for how long? What do you think this team's long-term plan should be?
I would keep him over Jansen because he's available. And I love Danny Jansen. I have Danny Jansen staying in my Twitter bio. Like, I love Jansen. But he's spider bitten, he's cursed. He can't stay healthy. And it's
push back a little bit, though. I would say a guy who catches half the time and DHs the other half. I don't know if we can say that's necessarily available. Danny Jansen, we're not going to get anything for in trade, are we? Do we just let him walk?
I think
you get it.
I think he's still there. There's teams looking for guys like Danny Jansen.
Sure, a playoff contender.
Detroit's interested.
I think anybody who's going to give us anything to add to this team is not going to want Danny Jansen, other than prospects back in return. But maybe that's what we need. Restock the cupboards. Who knows?
It's been suggested that Danny Jansen is missed by the pitchers on this team. So I don't know to what extent that is true, but I've seen it suggested by multiple people, and not just random fans. And so that's a possibility. I don't know. I think, first of all, back to Kirk. I mean, he is the feel-good story of the season, is he not?
Absolutely.
Right. Not just on this team, but in a lot of ways partly in Major League Baseball, just because, if he ran away with it, right? He absolutely ran away with the All-Star vote at the catcher's position. So good for him. It's the one sort of really consistent bright spot that this team has had. And, but I don't know. I agree. I think he has a role as long as he keeps hitting. But catching, as we know, is also there's a fair amount of depth right now. So Danny Jansen's slated, I think, to return to the team next week. I think he could be with the team as early as Tuesday. I'm guessing Moreno gets sent down so that he can get regular playing time. But if you're looking, if they're looking to make a trade or trades, multiple trades, does one of them go?
Is there? Sorry, go ahead, Garth.
Well, like if we're gonna go for like Castillo for a starting pitcher, then yeah, Kirk's on the block. I'm not saying he's untradeable, but he needs to be. He's shown that he can be a part of a package for like a star to come back our way. I'm not saying it's going to be one for one, but if we're going to get rid of Kirk, we need something substantial coming back.
How do you feel about a world in which Alejandro Kirk is just a full-time DH with this Blue Jays team, where it is Danny Jansen and Gabriel Moreno splitting catching duties, and Alejandro Kirk is just Joel hates that idea. Joel thinks he's a great catcher.
I like the steps that Kirk has made defensively behind the plate this year. I love those pick throws that he makes at first base with Vlady when he picks off runners. I'm endlessly impressed by the steps that he's taken, not just in one aspect of his game. And it's just like the way that I see it is, if you're going to deal one of them, it's just like you've got Kirk right now who's hitting 310. He could probably hit 20 home runs this season as a catcher who plays solid defensively. Once again, you're not getting the amount of games that you want out of him, but that's something that you can be hopeful that will come. That's the dream situation out of Moreno. If Moreno comes up and hits 310 and gets you 20 to 25 home runs a season, that's the dream. You already have the dream. You already have a player who is equaling the numbers of the dream of another player. So to me, what I would do is if you're keeping those three, obviously that's the position that you're strong at and that you could trade from. But if you're keeping those three, then you need to create more diversity in the way that Moreno plays, in the way that he can get on the field. Because I feel like he's got the athleticism to be able to play third base, to be able to play on the other side of the diamond, not being a catcher. And in that situation, then you would be able to rotate three catchers where your third catcher isn't just a guy who sits on the bench and is a third catcher who plays every fifth day and doesn't provide. All three of these players would be providing pretty much every day. And whether it's pinch running, whether it's Moreno coming in and pinch running for Kirk later, whatever the situation is, you're able to find. You don't just got a guy who's sitting on the bench who's talented, who's catching every fifth day and isn't getting in the lineup. You got to Moreno's athleticism to get him into the game more than just being a catcher.
I would like to see Gabriel Moreno as a starting third baseman for this team. I don't know if it'll actually happen, but I would love to see that. Okay, Gabriel Moreno probably getting sent down when Danny Jansen's back. Jen, you're probably right about that. Okay, let's talk Alec Manoa heading to the All-Star game. How's everybody feel about his workload to this point? We touched on it earlier. Would you like to see him maybe skip the All-Star game? There's no way he does, but it sure would be nice to just get that kid rested because we're going to need him a lot in the back half. So thoughts on Alec Manoa, broadly speaking. We got 7 minutes, so let's go quick. Jen, we'll start with you. Alec Manoa.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, he was one of the 5 starters coming into this season. So they had to know his workload was going to increase greatly over last season, and that must be part of the plan. So I don't know how they're going to, or if they're going to manage it. I would like to think that there is a contingency plan, but maybe that's all sort of gone by the wayside, given the way the bullpen has gone and the rest of the rotation has gone. I don't know. You're right. He's not skipping the All-Star game. And speaking of skipping the All-Star game, it would be kind of good if Springer did as well.
Yeah.
There's a dude who needs some rest.
Yeah, good point. Joel, how you feeling Alec Manoa wise?
I just honestly, he's a horse. You know, this is a guy who 20 years ago would throw 260. Like, I don't feel I'm not worried personally at all with him pitching 200 plus innings, but it's just the mentality of the game that you can't do that. You can't bring this, young guy who's breaking records for the team up and have him pitch 215 innings. I think it'll have a lot to do with his effectiveness in the second half. If you see that his ERA starts to balloon up, then they'll probably be a little bit more conservative with his innings, but I don't really see that happening. So, and we're going to need to ride him. We're going to need to ride him. If we're going to if we even make the playoffs this year, we're going to need that, 75% win chance that comes with his starts. So, we need him, and we're win now. So it's, if we're pulling him back, then are we really win now? Because he's pretty much the best winner on this team.
I'll just say, and then we can throw it out to Lewis or Garth here. I agree with Jen's point about he must have been in the plans for an expanded workload. But he did come into the season as our 3 or 4 pitcher. I don't think anybody's plans were for Alec Manoa to be our ace guy, our guy that we were counting on for pitching into the 8th inning. I love what I've seen from Alec Manoa too. I'm not trying to poo-poo on it, but someone's head is on the chopping block if Alec Manoa pitches 200 plus innings this year and has some bad tacos along the way. So, Garth, Alec Manoa, your thoughts?
You guys remember when Steven Strasburg came up and the Nats were looking like they were going to win a World Series, and they shut him down, and like that was it. Like that was them throwing in the towel for the season, basically, because he was like their best pitcher, and I get it. He was coming off injury and and stuff like that, but I don't know. I have no trepidation saying that Manoa can throw 200 innings. He's a completely different pitcher. He's not that fireballer. He's an actual pitcher. He relies more on location and movement than he does on velocity. And he's a big dude. Like he reminds me so much of CC Sabathia. Just body type, mechanics, his pitch selection, just everything about him. And he just seems like he's going to be one of those guys that is going to be healthy, like for the majority of his career. So, I mean, I don't want to jinx him, but I mean, I think if you want to win a World Series, you're going to need Alec Manoa. So,
and how did shutting down Strasburg affect the rest of his health? Through the rest of his
ever
career
since, right?
Yeah, that just saved him. He's
but I mean,
32 starts every year now. No, I'm just joking.
Exactly.
That's not the case at all.
They won the
Like
World
you don't
Series
know
in
what's going to
2019.
happen in the future. So why are you planning like 5 years from now? Or what's Manoa going to be like 5 years from now? You want to win now. So
With
like,
Manoa,
I think the Nationals would have had 2 World Series if they didn't shut down Strasburg.
I think when it comes to Manoa, they're just going to take it one day at a time. And that's all they're going to think of. Then when the offseason rolls around, they'll start thinking long term. But when it's in season, it's one day at a time.
Yeah, I would say if they didn't shut down Strasburg, probably would have won a World Series. But also, if they didn't shut him down, maybe he got injured and he shuts himself down via injury anyways. I don't know. I need to see Alec Manoa pitching in October. I don't care how it gets there, but I do feel like not demanding he pitches into the 8th inning twice a month would probably be helpful, right?
But
I'm
I
not
mean,
saying we should shut him down, but maybe we start
that
pitching
kind
him
of depends
into the
on the
5th
game
or 6th.
scenario.
Sorry,
Like if they're up 8-2 or they're down 8-2, then like yeah, if the Jays are blowing out a team, then yeah, pull him in the 6th, give him some innings off.
This goes back to like the ultimate problem with the way our pitching staff is constructed right now is that we can't afford to do that. When we're up 8-2 in the 6th inning, we can't give Alec Manoa the day off because we're like, hey, we need you to lighten the load for this bullpen because we're throwing 4 bullpen pitchers out there tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
We're in dire straits. It's rough. I just want to say thank you to everybody here as we wrap up towards the end. Slow start in the live chat. We had about 10 while the Blue Jays game was on, but once that was over, we jumped up to around 40 or 50. So thanks to everybody watching live Sunday night in the live chat. We ran a poll. Fire Montoyo was the poll. Pretty simple poll. And we had 35 votes on it. 70, it's climbing still. 75% in favor of firing Charlie Montoyo. So what do fans know, right?
I use
TweetDeck.
TweetDeck. I don't know if anybody else does. I use TweetDeck, and one of my columns is hashtag Blue Jays. So anybody who uses the hashtag Blue Jays, whether I follow them or not, I see their tweets. And this entire episode, it's been filled with Fire Montoyo.
Really? Fire Montoyo trending on Twitter, or at least on Jen's Twitter. I think we're going to hear a lot of that, though, as Joel pointed out. 9 out of the last 10, and this series against the Mariners stings extra hard. So on that note, Joel, let's go to you. Where can people find you? What have you been working on? I know the movie's got to be getting close.
Yeah, it's shot. It's wrapped. We're in editing now. It's going really, really, really well. We have 1,700 hours of footage to go through. So it's just like a normal movie, you're looking at maybe 16 to 20 hours of footage that they chop down for your 2 hours of movie, right? That's all the takes, all the cuts and everything like that. We ended up using half of our movie. Like I like to compare it to Law and Order, where half of a Law and Order episode is the cops getting the bad guy. Half the Law and Order episode is the lawyers putting the bad guy in jail. Well, half of our, like every episode that we do, half of the episode is the actors getting to set and being cast, and you're seeing all their auditions. And then the other half of the show is the narrative structure of the acting and the characters that we've created and the story that goes on. So it's kind of this fourth wall breaking situation where you're connected to the actors for the first half, and then you're connected to their characters for the second half of the show. So, and
Very
it's
cool.
so much footage.
Do you have an estimated release date? Is that a this summer thing? This year, next year?
We feel like in the next 2 months we'll be able to chop the 15 episodes together.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Lewis, you're off to the States for some ball this week.
Yeah, I'll be going down to Cincinnati, and then I'll be in Atlanta for the biggest tournament in the States. There'll be like 300 teams from Canada, from America. It'll be huge. Really excited
cool.
for that. So, yeah.
What's your Twitter?
At Jay'sKid_RHP. Give me a follow if you want. I'm a positive Jays now.
Very, very cool. Appreciate it. Garth, nice to see you.
Yeah, always a pleasure being on the show with you guys.
You've got your articles you're working on. Where can people find more of Garth?
Yeah, well, you can find me on Twitter under at Garth Orgy. I'm always there. I'm also I have a blog on Medium where I write articles. Been kind of slacking. I've been helping my brother. If you follow me on Twitter, you see that like I'm out commercial fishing with my brother a little bit the last couple of weeks. But I'm working on an article now where I'm trying to use. I'm coming up with a new mathematic formula where I can try to decipher who is the biggest piece of shit in baseball with math. So that's I'm hoping that'll be out probably next week.
Very cool. Looking forward to it.
And surprisingly, it's not Trevor Bauer, which is shocking.
All right.
Trying to make a guess here on who it might be. Chris Sale.
He's in my top 10. Chris Sale is in my top 10.
Aroldis Chapman.
Oh, that's a good one.
Fuck, Jen, you ruined it. You ruined
You
everything.
broke the algorithm,
Yeah,
Jen.
God damn it.
You shake a gun at your wife and fire 8 shots into the wall. That'll do it.
I guess
He
have
is the biggest piece of shit in baseball. But yeah, I have a whole mathematic formula that you'll be able to see in the article. So I'm hoping that'll be out middle of next week.
Awesome.
Very cool. Looking forward to that.
Does whether they're unvaccinated or not go into the formula?
Well, not the unvaccinated thing. It's more of, are you there for your teammates sort of thing.
Okay.
Are you a free thinker or are you here to win? Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
So you do your own research.
Did their own research, exactly. All right, Jen, let's wrap it up with you. Our Iron Man, you have the longest streak going now after Joel was unable to attend on the Canada Day weekend. So all the shame to Joel and all the praise to baseball. Jen, where can people find more of you and what do you got going on this summer?
I'm working. I'm teaching from home this summer. So that's still grinding away and looking into doing a few other things, and people can find me at baseball_Jen. That's Jen with 2 N's. And thank you to anyone who answered the question about where to sit economically for a Blue Jays game.
Yes, I will get you those comments later tonight, and then we'll have more people rewatch this tomorrow morning. So if you're rewatching this Monday morning, get your comments in on this video. Best reasonable seats at the Rogers Center for Jen's friends and family. All right, with that, we are out of here. Thanks, everybody, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.